How's your workout this morning?
But I was ready to go early, and
Do you see a little gray up above there?
no
Gray above. No gray above.
No, in fact, it's actually supposed to get nicer today. It's about 10 degrees cooler than it was last week. This is Daisy, princess of the blooper reel.
Yeah. All right, welcome to DJ Center Stage. Okay, I got to start over. Hold on a second. Welcome to DJ Center Stage. I'm already messing up. This is not a good
it's
time.
because there's my dog's tail in the background. And that's why I can't keep a straight face. Daisy, go away.
Daisy, no, keep Daisy in there. That's great.
If the bride is yellow, but
That's all right. We'll pick it up.
can be bossy and rude. Drink beer, think bright, sunny, loud, like a sunshine. I want to go take a break. Can we go do something fun? I need to go have a snack. Like I can't work anymore right now. And green grass and green leaves and green tea and pea soup. And, okay, that sounds good. The little spinning beach ball of death. Not a good way to start. Maybe we could take Wednesday off and hang out at the hotel pool. And a little bonus scoop of extra breakfast.
Welcome to DJ Center Stage TV, episode 20. Okay, so I'm not on episode 112, but hey, we
started at episode 1 also, so.
That's, okay, there you go. She's an author and speaker, certified personality trainer, and half of the Creating Connections duo with Gittimer certified sales advisor Mitch Taylor, and produced the weekly podcast Creating Connections for Event Pros, and also their most recent educational offering, Sales Help, which is a ride-along on actual sales meetings with an analysis as they move through the process with each client. Welcome, Vickie Musni. So nice to have you. Bright eye and early in the morning.
Thank you.
So personalities for business, what does it entail, and who and how does it help?
The way it started, I always have been a speaker first. I never really thought of myself as a writer. And I started speaking at a local ADJA group, I think I did first, and then an AFWPI event, a regional conference, and it kind of grew from there. But I noticed that every time I spoke and presented on personalities, people would say, where do we get your book? This is great information. How do I get more? Where do I buy your book? And after hearing that for 2 years, I finally said, okay, I guess I better buckle down and write a book, which I really knew nothing about. And so that was a whole nother fun process. But my heart was for taking what I'd learned about personalities and helping other business owners apply that information to how they run their business. And I think first you have to look internally and say, how does this relate to me? Who am I? What personality do I have? What are my strengths and weaknesses? What am I naturally good at? What do I need help at? How can I minimize those weaknesses and really play to my strengths in how I run my business and how I look for help and how I hire other people, how I grow my team, whatever that is. And then the side that I get asked to speak about most is, how do I use that information to connect with clients? People, well, how do I sell more stuff? How do I book more gigs? Those kind of questions. But really for me, what it comes down to is that perspective of understanding who is the person that sits across from you. Mm-hmm. Who are they? What really matters to them? Some people are much better at articulating what matters to them, and others aren't. So if you can discern the personality type, or at least make an educated guess early in the conversation, it can help you get to the heart of the matter sooner. And that's true for any business, whether it's your DJ business, or if you do other things in the wedding or event business, or just with people that you meet. It helps you be a better listener, a better observer, a better communicator.
And even thinking of applying that with couples, like for instance, because I am out myself, I just recently started branching out with my business, and I have other MCs working for me now, but going out, I'm the person that's a salesperson. So I'm out there meeting with couples, and I'm trying to gauge that, and just having a copy. Personalities for Business. This is the book that Vickie wrote. An awesome book because it gives you the insights, as I mentioned, with the different personality types that there are. But walking into a consultation with a client or clients, it gives you a really good perspective of how to approach what you're asking, how to get information, and then ultimately really make that connection with the clients.
Yes, and I think there's some schools of thought out there that will teach you if you can just find this one perfect sales pitch. You know, you have this one line that you say, or this certain order that you have to say things in every time. And if you say XYZ every time, it's going to work. And I just find that is really, really faulty thinking, because every couple, every person, even with every couple, you have two different personalities. And then if you've got parents that are coming into the consultation, or a maid of honor that has an opinion, you have lots of different personalities in front of you. So to me, it is completely illogical that saying any one thing is going to be heard the same way by different personalities. So why wouldn't you want to learn how to figure out how to best communicate with that individual or that couple who sit across from you? You know, why wouldn't you want to create something custom for them? And I think we get that in our end results. Oh yeah, I can customize what I do. And, you know, I customize my playlist and I customize my introductions. And why wouldn't you want to customize your sales presentation? It's a conversation. Why wouldn't you want to create something unique and real and genuine with that couple?
I imagine it would be challenging to really pinpoint their personality types, because you could read the different types, you know, red, yellow, green, blue, and try to make fit the mold of what that personality might be by what they are saying to you or what their body language is conveying during the sit-down visit. But also there's the analysis of what they're not saying. So
very much so.
So they could be saying one thing, but their true identity of their personality can be hiding underneath that, how they truly feel about something. So that could be challenging too.
And that's where being a good listener and a good observer comes into play. And, you know, and Mitch talks about doing, he calls it the search phase, searching out information before you even meet.
Right.
And if you have the opportunity to do that, great. If someone just shows up at your office, or they call you and you're trying to do this, you know, on the fly without the benefit of having some research, you still have to train yourself to zero in and listen for keywords, how they're phrasing things, why they're saying something. If they're in front of you, great. Then you have all kinds of extra clues, because you've got body language and you've got, you know, colors that they wear and the way they're dressed and how much makeup does she have on or not. And all of those things can give you clues. Right. And in fact, when I really started to take this into my business, I also had a contract. Besides my husband and I had our video business, we had a contract at the Peppermill Hotel and Casino, which is the largest wedding property here in Reno. At the time, we were doing about 450 weddings a year, and any wedding that did photography at that wedding was booked through me. So I was in charge of hiring and training the team of photographers. And mind you, I was not a photographer. They gave my company the contract because they wanted me to do management and sales and my husband to do video production. So I would hire photographers that would go out. Our most common package was a 90-minute shoot. They would spend 90 minutes doing a ceremony and then an after photo shoot with this couple, and then maybe a teeny tiny bit if the reception was on site of them standing next to their cake or something. Then Craig would take all of those photos and make them into a little video presentation, and I would go and do a sales meeting with them before they check out of the hotel the next day. So I learned to, when they walked into my office for this sales meeting, because I had to show them a video and I was small base, but mostly commission, I had to connect with them and present it in a way that met with their personality. And the 2.5 years I had that contract, that was really kind of my playground for honing my skills and learning to really do this. And I did have an advantage in that I had an opportunity to look at their photos ahead of time, which could show me some clues about personality.
Definitely.
But then when they walked into my office, were they coming in loud and laughing and chatting, and she was still wearing her ball cap that I'm the bride. And, then I knew, okay, they want to tell me about how much fun they had last night. And did they go into the casino after the reception? And, did she spend the whole day in the spa? Is that why they were running late? Let her tell me some stories. And if I had a different personality come in and they were quiet and laid back and not expressive, then for me, I knew instantly I needed to tone down my natural personality. I needed to learn to speak a little bit more slowly. they might need some more time to process. If they came in just all business, matter of fact, ready to go, you know, all right, well, show me, get to the bottom line, whatever,
Yeah.
you know, I skipped the small talk. Okay, well, let's watch your video right off the bat.
Right.
Because I knew
Red.
that's what that personality needed.
Yeah.
And so I was doing sometimes, you know, 4, 5, 6 weddings a weekend. And then on busy weekends, because I was there during like the 9, 10, 11 and all of those crazy, you know, 10, 11, 12s, where we'd had 14, 15 weddings on 9, 10, 11. And I would have to meet with all of them over a 2-day period. I just kind of really had all of this practice and by trial and error. And some of those stories are in the book. But that was really where I was, you know, practicing how to apply this. Because it's not something you can just read the book once and instantly know. It takes a while to internalize. And I always tell people it's part science, but part art, meaning that, yes, there is science behind it. But I'm not trying to train people to put people in a box for the sake of putting them in a box. You have to, you know, the whole reasoning behind it is acknowledging that people are different. And that's why I love the color analogy, because, you know, I mean, you and I are both wearing green today, right?
Yeah.
But the green I'm wearing is very different from the green that you're wearing. And there's infinite other numbers of shades of green. You can, you know, green grass is different from green leaves and green tea and, you know, pea soup and whatever. There's all these different shades of green. Well, same with green personalities. You can recognize them as being a green, but it doesn't mean they're 100% the same as every other green you meet. But it helps you to learn, oh yeah, if they're green, they probably have some of these characteristics. And this is kind of how I want to approach them.
It's very interesting, and I have an interest in this so much, and just learning the different temperaments that people have, because it's important to know ahead of time. But coming up with the idea of this, did you kind of assimilate this to the Myers-Briggs type indicator? Because that's kind of a personality test, and start getting the ideas for
Myers-Briggs is very similar.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of differences. The test that I use is called Wired That Way.
Okay.
And it's just a different system. But honestly, any 4 personality system, 4 temperaments, 4 whatever, they all trace their roots back to the same Greek thinker in 400 BC. He was the one, Hippocrates is his name, that came up with he was the first one to do the theory. And honestly, anything anybody's done since then is their spin on how to assess it, how to explain it, and how to apply it. So even, you know, even the way I teach it is a little bit different from the way that the people that I did my training and my certification with. If you've ever heard anybody use the terms sanguine, choleric, melancholy, and phlegmatic, are you familiar with those?
Oh yes. Psychology major in college. So
I teach that same system, and the Wired That Way test was designed by Florence Littauer and her late husband Fred, and Florence is the one I trained under, and her daughter Marita now runs the company. They use the colors in conjunction with those terms, but I just, after maybe a year after my training, just completely dropped the Greek terms, because I found that the audiences that I was speaking to, for the most part, weren't really interested in learning Greek. And those words were kind of weird, hard to remember, and they had really weird connotations. Melancholy in the personality world is not what our society in English today thinks of as melancholy. It does not mean the same thing. And so I just didn't like the weird connotations. And I felt like just using the colors was so much easier to remember.
Definitely.
And for me as a trainer, and maybe it speaks to my red personality, I wanted my training, my material, my speaking to be as efficient as possible. I didn't want people to have to spend hours and hours and hours just getting the background, and then we'd have no time left to talk about, how do you apply this? How does this relate to your life and your business? I wanted to spend a smaller amount of time talking about what each personality was and how to identify it, and then focus on, okay, what do we do with this? How does this help? You know, what can I do with this now? So for me to be able to say, okay, well, yellow, think bright, sunny, loud, like a sunshine. The opposite of yellow is blue. Think deep, like the ocean. Blues are your deep thinkers, your analytical personality types, you know, the ones that were organized. Red, everything you would think of with a fiery red personality, a go-getter, you know, bold, strong, action-oriented. And with green, think calm, like peaceful green meadows. What was that, 10 seconds? But now you've got a visual association, and then we can talk about, okay, what traits do we look for? What are the strengths and weaknesses? How do we apply this? How can we connect better? How do you ask more meaningful questions? What parts of your business do you emphasize when you're with a certain personality type? Because that's where the sales part, so to speak, comes in, is finding out what really matters to that person. And, you know, if you know you've got a loud, sunny yellow in front of you, then that's when you dive in with all of the fun stories and how you're going to make her feel like a princess, and, you know, what you can do for her that speaks to the yellow personality. But if you led with reviews and data and numbers and percentages of clients that were satisfied with your services, and that was how you led, that's not going to connect with the yellow. But if her dad's a blue and he wants to know those things, you darn well better have him ready.
Right.
Because a blue is going to need that. Or if her groom is a blue, or if you've got a blue bride and she wants those things, have them available.
Right.
But understanding personalities helps you know where to lead the conversation, how to steer it.
Let's say someone is a real heavy blue and they have their notebook in front of them. When you sit down with them, that's their
the binder bride.
Yep. And so, you know.
And not the binder bride who has the binder with all of the printouts because it was on Pinterest and it was cute and it's all empty. But like the binder bride who actually has everything filled out and organized.
Yes. Very good point. So for example, taking a conversation with that particular bride, I would probably highlight the timeline creation for that and the detail and time putting into that to create it in a very organized way so she could see the flow, because that might be very important for her.
Absolutely. And hopefully if planning the timeline and organizing that is a big part of what you do, that should come up at some point in the conversation. But even just to take that example, you would emphasize different things. With the blue, you can talk about how detailed and organized that you are, because that's what's going to be reassuring to her. With a yellow, you might talk about the timeline of, we want to make sure that we have all of the events in order that's going to be really fun for you and your guests. So you see how we're still talking about timelines,
right?
But we're emphasizing different things based on the personality that's going to hear it. So for a red, we talk about, well, we want to make sure we've got the timeline down so it's real efficient for all of the transitions and we can make the most of the time that you have with your friends and family and make sure we accomplish everything that you want to do with your event.
Very
so even
interesting.
Words like accomplish and you speak that language. Whereas for a green, the reason we have a timeline is so you can relax and don't have to worry about anything.
Right.
And that way I can help everybody else know exactly what they need to do next and you don't have to stress about it.
See, that's
so
brilliant.
It's one timeline, but your emphasis is different based on who is hearing it.
Okay.
So hopefully you're doing all of those things. You know, you are aware of the guests, you are making it fun, you are taking stress off of your client, you are being efficient with your time and your planning. But different people, different personalities care about different aspects the most. And then when you get really proficient at speaking this language, when you're sitting in that client meeting and maybe you have 4 different personality types in front of you, because that's what the question I get asked a lot is, okay, so now what? Okay, so now I'm learning to speak these languages, but what do I do if the bride is a yellow and she's marrying a groom who's blue and mom is a red and she's married to a green? How do I speak all of them at once?
Right.
And what I tell people is think about when you are in a small group situation, even thinking about, you know, for me, sitting around the dining room table at dinner with my husband and my 4 kids, I've got different personalities there too. But even if you're telling a story or giving instructions, you cannot make eye contact with more than one person at a time. So even when you're talking to a group, you're only looking at one person at a time. So you can glance when you're talking about timeline, and you can glance towards the bride and say, this is how we make sure we can pack in everything fun into your event. And then you look over at the groom who's blue and say, and I do all of this detailed planning ahead of time so that all of the transitions go smoothly. And so you learn to, you know, kind of shift your energy with the person that you're looking at the moment, the more fluent you become at speaking the 4 personality languages. that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And here's the way I would have approached it prior. Now that I've heard this, and still share the information, but just present it in the wording differently with each personality type. I love that. But before, I would have taken an idea of just like, okay, the timeline, this is for someone that's a yellow. They're not going to maybe be interested in these details. So just scrap it all together and talk about something entirely different.
But you don't want them to be surprised then that you make a timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
Or to be wondering, because sometimes yellows are in tune enough to know, well, I'm not good at this. So this is what I'm hiring you for. So they want to know, okay, yeah, you got this. Okay, perfect. That's all they need to know. But you still need to bring it up if that's a part of what you do. And for me, even as a yellow, that's a big part of what I do as an MC. You know, I was a wedding planner for 4 years before I started helping my husband in our video business, long before we ever started doing, you know, DJing and MC. We're coming up on our 21st anniversary this summer, which means this September will mark the 21st anniversary of starting our business.
Oh, congratulations.
So thank you. It has grown and changed and evolved over the years, much as our relationship has. And, you know, but so you have these different aspects that you bring in, and no, I don't think you should just ignore them if it's a big part of who you are. Because for me, creating those moments, that's what I love as an MC. That's where my strengths lie. So I don't want to just skip that part, but I will reassure my clients and explain how I handle it using different terminology, different lingo, different expressions based on how I feel they're going to hear it best.
Right.
But I don't just want to surprise them. And when I show up and, oh, you didn't know I talked to your caterer and I talked to your wedding planner and, you know, oh, we've been talking about this timeline for the last month or two. You know, I don't want to surprise them with that. Or when their photographer says, oh, yeah, I heard from your MC. And they go, oh, you did? How'd you get that information? I don't want to be like, oh, yeah, didn't you know that your groom gave it to me because it was on the planning form I asked you to fill out? Because I want to have this conversation. So I don't want to create awkward moments. Right. But you emphasize them differently. That's
emphasizing them differently. Exactly. Key. Yeah. And certain personalities too, and thinking about different colors. Now, I know they're not mutually exclusive at all. So you could certainly have somebody with a personality type that's a little green and a little blue or yellow.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I'm a good example of a blend. Actually, I'm a 50-50 split. I'm half red, half yellow. When I take the long 40 question, you know, personality inventory, the Wired That Way assessment, I'll score within 1 or 2 points, depending on what has been going on in my day and or things like that. But I'm really close. So sometimes when I'm at home, for example, I become a lot more red. My husband is super green. He's the chill, cool, calm, collected, doesn't stress about stuff, doesn't overreact when the kids have, you know, weird stuff going on or when they procrastinate. But I tend to go super red because I want to kind of balance out his green. And I'm the one that's like, no, boys, come on, knock it off. It's time for bed. You need to, you know, or guys, get your chores done so that we can go have some fun. But I tend to be that, you know, let's get stuff done. And I'm the, you know, why are we late for school again? Even just this morning, dropping my son off at his bus stop because it's about a mile from our house. I'm like, dude, we left 7 minutes late. Like, that's 7 minutes off of my gym time now because I still need to be ready for my interview with, you know, for the podcast that I'm doing today with Jim. And it's like, that's not okay with me. And he's like, oh, well, Dad never complains when I'm, you know, running late. I just was trying to finish my breakfast. But that's because my son is a green and so is my husband. So they're just not as aware about, you know, times and deadlines. But then there are other times, like when I'm working with Mitch, who's super, super red, that I become the yellow. And I'd be like, okay, we've been working a whole lot. I'm like, I want to go take a break. Can we go do something fun? I need to go have a snack. Like I can't work anymore right now. And I, you know, I go yellow because of how red he is. So your colors will interact with the other personalities around you and you know, different, but the traits are there. So yeah, there definitely are common blends. Yellows and reds are common blend because those are the extroverted personalities. Greens and blues is a common blend because those are the introverted personalities. Blue reds also combine because those are the task-oriented ones. And so often you'll find a person that's just very, very task focused and very structured. And, you know, I just spent 2 days in a workshop with Mark Farrell, who's a great example of a blue red. And his primary is blue, but he's very much a red secondary and knows this is the way it should be. but the process is rooted in all of that deep thinking and lots of details. If you've ever taken a workshop from him, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's other people like my husband who is a green-yellow split. He's all a people person. And so sometimes he's that mellow, green, just easygoing, and we'll just get caught up in a conversation, more so than being worried about the task. So that the colors will tend to blend either along the lines of extrovert and introvert, or along the lines of task-oriented, people-oriented. You have to understand yourself first. And so there's a little mini test on my website, just kind of a little fun questionnaire. And then if you want to get the full online person or the full profile, you can buy it on Amazon. Actually, it comes as a little 8-page booklet, and it's got 40 questions where you can rank. And it basically assesses the 20 most common strengths and the 20 most common weaknesses of each of the 4 personality types. So the results are really helpful, because you don't just get this, well, this is who you are. You get hey, these are the things that you're really good at, and these are the things that where you struggle. And so I learned things about myself. Like, I know that as a red, I am a good natural leader, and I can, get a lot of things accomplished, but I also know that I can be bossy and rude. And I have to really watch that, especially with my kids, because you let your guard down. Like, I can be very well behaved, and I can bring out the positive leadership strengths when I'm teaching a workshop. We can get a lot accomplished. But then I come home and I let my guard down. I'm like, why do I snap at the people that I love the most? And I have to really watch, my red self, and how can I lead them in a way that is still loving, because not all of my children are red. And frankly, the ones who are the ones I butt heads with the most. And having, being the product of a red mother and having a red daughter, I have seen the good and the bad of having that, that red to red relationship. So yeah, you've got to know yourselves, and then to carry that over into the business context too. And I joke about this a lot. My husband, I mentioned, is a green yellow, and I'm a yellow red. So what's missing? We have no blue. We have nobody that we've been running a business together for over 20 years. Neither one of us are naturally good at numbers and details and systems. But we don't get to tell the IRS, oh, well, I just didn't get around to paying taxes, but I get a pass because I'm a blue. I'm not a blue. Right. I'm a yellow. So I'm just really not good at that whole number thing. And same with our employees. I can't tell them. I know when we hired you, I said we were going to do, paychecks every other Friday, but I just didn't get around to it this week because, the yellow, I'm just so distracted, and something more fun came along, and you don't. So, but when you understand that about yourselves, as we started growing our staff, we said, we need to hire a payroll company. We're not good at this. We don't enjoy figuring out. And I don't know if your state's the same, but here there are some annual taxes, some quarterly taxes, and some things that have to be done monthly. And I don't want to figure that stuff out. To me, that is not the part of running a business that I enjoy at all. I love sales. I love marketing. I love going to my DJ trivia events and checking out my hosts and seeing how they're doing and finding new people to bring onto our team. And I love our quarterly staff meetings, and we all get together and we have pizza, and it's the one time we drink beer because I don't let them drink when they're working for me. And we can have a meeting, and then they'll all stay at my house and play ping pong. And I love that part. And my wedding clients, I love working with them. And I don't love bookkeeping. I don't love taxes. So yes, of course, knowing that about ourselves, that is the first thing we're going to hire out. No brainer.
Makes complete sense. But the process of learning personality types can apply universally to so many different types of businesses. That's why it's so great to have an understanding, being able to identify it, because your approach to the process of working and communicating effectively and efficiently in communication, opening the doors of communication, and having the couples and building those relationships with them, you're going to win from understanding how a personality works better.
Yes, and even when I teach the business workshops and the private trainings for companies, you can't help but see the applications to other areas. People are always, oh my gosh, that's my spouse, this makes sense, or that's my child, or oh, now I understand that dynamic between me and my dad. because he's this personality and I'm this, or my neighbor or my kid's teacher or whatever it is. You start just seeing personalities everywhere you go. I mean, I was on a flight recently and I was laughing at the dynamic between the 3 flight attendants that were on there, because there was one that was super red and one that was a yellow green. And he came and sat down next to me for like a half an hour and was showing me his new headphones, and we were listening to music, and the captain turned on the the seatbelt light and said that we announced that we were getting ready to descend, and he goes, "Oh crap, I should probably go do service." Like he's such a people person, all green, yellow, just got so busy hanging out. And it wasn't a full flight, so it wasn't a big deal. It was one of those really late night flights, and I was coming home from Milwaukee. But it was just funny because you could see his red buddy up in the front that was just taking care of everything. And even me, personality trainer, I'm just laughing at the dynamic between the guys and who they are. So once you internalize it, you start seeing it everywhere you go.
Right. Yeah.
But it can help because you interact with people everywhere you go.
For sure. So, Vickie, what is the best way that anyone can get in touch with you to find out more information about any workshops you're offering, or just to get some relevant information, how they could order your book?
Facebook, yes. Facebook is definitely where I live. So if you want to interact with me, Facebook is a great way to do it, is the forum where I am most active. That's the one good perk of having a weird name, is I am the only Vickie Musni on Facebook. But here's the deal. If you want to follow me professionally and just hear about personalities, just go like my business page. If you want to be my friend, then be friendly and send a little message, introduce yourself, say, "Hey, I listened to the podcast episode with Jim," and send me that message. Because if you just send me a friend request and not introduce yourself, I won't let you into my little world. My website is also easy, VickieMusni.com, and you can get the book information there, or on creatingconnections.biz. That's where you can find the podcast that Mitch and I do every week.
Awesome. Which I'm a avid fan of, for sure.
Yes, you are.
Tune in all the time, so I know what the episodes are up to at this point and everything. So it's great. You always find some helpful information, some nuggets, if you will.
And then Sales for Event Pros too, if you're not already on that page and you are in the events industry, join us there, because there's some great conversations specifically about sales, but we bring in the personality piece and our own unique perspectives. Jason Spencer is also an admin on that page, who is a green, which is a really fun dynamic with Mitch's red and my yellow. We probably should look for a blue admin to join us, just to balance things out. But yeah, join us there too.
Yeah, all in the works. I want to take a little quiz.
Okay.
Give me a description of a personality type. I'm going to do my best to identify it by color.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So if you see someone and they're dressed, just like really casual, maybe sweats and flip-flops and no jewelry, no makeup, hair in a ponytail. And
this is my wife. Describing my wife right now.
Yeah, and then their demeanor is, just kind of indecisive or kind of unsure, but friendly.
Allison. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
What personality are you thinking as I describe that?
As you describe that, I'm going with green or blue, but I'm thinking because it's indecisiveness, I'm going to say possibly green.
Mm-hmm. The green. Yeah, greens are friendly and just super laid back and really chill about things and go with the flow kind of people. Mm-hmm. And then, in our world too, they're the ones that can get really easily overwhelmed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe in your approach, as I mentioned with the timeline, not a good idea to show them all the details of the timeline. This is exactly what's going to happen when, and blah, blah. That might be a little too overwhelming.
Unless you're saying, I'm taking responsibility.
Yes, right.
And I create a timeline that is really detailed so I can make sure that you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Then, you flip it that way. And then they're like, okay, good. You're handling that.
Perfect.
But then there are some personalities, the ones so say the next person comes in and they come in and they're quick and they're high energy and very get to the point. Okay, well, I just want to know, what are your packages? What are my options? Who's that?
Red.
Definitely.
Hands down red.
Yeah. So, and it may be nice that you have this like whole presentation that you normally do. And there are techniques definitely that you can use, and depending on if it's a first conversation or a walk in your office, or if you're at a scheduled meeting, then you may have a little bit more control over that. But yeah, if somebody comes in, they're like, just you get to the point, and they're going to know when they're being manipulated, and you're better off to just meet them where they're at,
right?
Because it shows that you respect them and what they're looking for. And, you know, then later you can, once you've earned their trust and their respect, then you can say, hey, would you mind if I made a suggestion? Would it be okay if I showed you some of these other things that we offer?
Right.
And then you can expand the conversation, but start by giving them what they're trying to buy.
Great. Okay. Got it.
Another one, leopard print boots and a hot pink scarf and like big blingy jewelry.
Paris Hilton. Okay. Yeah.
And you hear them, you know, laughing as they come around the corner before that you even see them and see the crazy outfit, but you hear them from a mile away. Who we talking to?
Yellow, yellow, yellow.
And again, not everybody has all of the yellow traits.
Right. Yeah.
Because yellows can look different. There's different shades of yellow.
Absolutely.
But yeah, when you hear them or you see that bold personality. I mean, I showed up to a conference a couple weeks ago with a big strand of purple in my hair.
Nice.
Because I do that sometimes because I'm yellow and I like variety, and that's fun for me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, every now and then I will. So the next person, you know, I think we kind of talked about this before, but
all right.
They you know, they come in and their demeanor may be more soft-spoken, but they've got lots of questions. They need, you know, okay, I have my list of the 20 things I'm supposed to ask anyone that whose services I'm considering. Okay, let's go through my list piece by piece.
This is like the id, the super ego and the ego, the iceberg analogy, right? And this is there's a lot of under the surface there, but it's the blue. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And so even if you are a yellow and you want to skip to the stories and start with your, you know, fun, energetic hook, if you've got that personality in front of you, then you need to train yourself to say, all right, let's have a look. Show me that list of things that you're concerned about. Let's go through them. How can I help, you know, ease your concerns? How can I take care of you?
Check off one by one. The rest make them feel comfortable with everything.
And that's the difference. See, Reds like checklists too, but their checklists tend to not be quite as long.
Right. Okay. I love it. This is great. Thanks.
Well, and this is what I love about doing the private trainings for companies, because I can go and spend a whole day with a business owner and their whole team of DJs and MCs, or with a whole team of salespeople, depending on the company structure. And we can talk about personalities and how it relates to your own strengths and weaknesses, how it affects your team. But then we can talk about specific challenges. All right, give me an example of a recent client that came into your office, or a recent, you know, couple that, you know, you as a DJ MC, you know, that you were serving. And let's talk about what were some of their concerns. How did you address them? How do personalities play into that? And we can get really specific in those longer training sessions. It's fun.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Vickie. It's been amazing talking to you. Well, thanks so much.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Stay tuned next week for episode 21. Thanks again. Take care, everyone.